too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you crying. You know we gotta find a way to bring some love in here today. Father, Father, we don't need to escalate. War is not the answer, 'cause only love conquers hate. You know we gotta find a way to bring some love in here today. Picket lines, picket signs, don't you punish me. Brutality, talk to me. You can see what's going on. Hey, yeah, what's going on? I wanna know what's going on. Everybody says that we're wrong. Oh, but who are they to judge us? Simply 'cause you'll have it wrong. You know we got to find a way. Bring some loving here today. Picket lines and picket signs, don't just punish me. Brutality, yeah, talk to me. You can see, yeah, what's going on. Hey, what's going on? I wanna know what's going on. What's going on? Please tell me what's going on.
Good to each of you, and welcome to our show, Perspective. This is episode 25, and we're excited about tonight's show. We're still continuing our series, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and tonight's topic is the struggle of being Black. And this is a lot of topics. I've already received a lot of great feedback when I put out this particular topic. So we're in for a treat tonight. Tonight, we're just going to have raw conversation, transparent conversation. So I do ask that you all get ready for this. And if you all would like and share this post, like and share this post, feel free to tag people in the show that you know could benefit from this. This is, like I said, going to be very great conversation. And before we bring our guest on for tonight, I do want to thank our guests from last week's show, Rhonda Robertson, Poet Carrie B, and Jasmine Barnes. If you missed the kickoff to our series on last week, you definitely missed a treat, and you can go back and look at the replay from that show. And just to give you a brief recap of what last week's show talked about, to kick off our series, we talked about the dopeness of being Black. And in that, we talked about some of the great things that we have of our culture, of our race, that none other culture can compete with. We also talked about some of those moments that sometimes really it can irritate us with our race, but at the end of the day, we still celebrate like none other. So again, if you miss episode one, you missed a treat, so you're welcome to go back and watch that. So without any further delay, two of my guests are already in, and I do apologize, but Reverend Gwen Webb, she will not be joining us this evening, but due to unforeseen circumstances, but we will get her on a later show. So my two guests that are already backstage, gonna go ahead and bring them in. My first guest, this is I've actually been waiting to have her on as a guest for a while now. Glad that this has finally happened. She's no stranger for everyone in the Birmingham city and surrounding areas. This is none other than Miss Arlillian Bushelon. She is the manager of the Bushelon Funeral Home Incorporated. Thank you for joining us.
No problem.
And then our next guest, this is Mr. Xavier Bryant. He is a therapist with Impact Family Counseling. And for those who watch the show, you know that Impact has been a lot. So, and again, I want to give a special shout out to Lucretia Day for connecting me with you. And Xavier, thank you for agreeing to do the show. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Eric Hall, he's our other guest. He will be joining us momentarily, but we don't want to delay the hour. So while a good starter question, I'll ask the same question that I asked the panel on last week. And Lillian, we will start with you tonight. And the order for tonight we'll start with Lillian, then we'll go to Xavier, and then Eric. We'll end with him. So just to get us started with our questions, when you think of Black and Blackness, how awesome is it, just when you just to wake up every morning knowing that you're African American? That's the first question that I want to pose.
I think it's awesome to be Black for the simple fact that we're often imitated but never duplicated.
Mhm,
So many cultures pull from our culture, from dance to food to music. We are the influencers of the world.
mhm.
So to be influencers of the world is amazing in itself. And then, I mean, we get the best thing ever. Black doesn't crack. Look at all of our skin.
Absolutely,
We Our melanin, truly speaks highly for us and shows how beautiful we can be in all our different shades.
absolutely.
That's kind of hard to follow. But I want to echo in a probably less dogmatic way. I think being Black is so dynamic that it's ever changing, and it's as many people that as there are in our community. I think there are as many perspectives on being Black. So I think really what makes being Black awesome is that we're rooted in really the human condition. You know what really makes us human is what makes us Black, is what makes us beautiful. And I think we kind of tap into that probably, in my opinion, more than some other cultures.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree with both of your statements. And for the next question, when we think about things that we experience compared to other races, because let's be honest, if other races had to endure half of the things that we have to endure, they wouldn't last. And that's not, just a stereotype. That is just the honest to God truth. So when you think about the tenacity and the strength and the courage, I'll even ask that question for you as a Black woman, Lillian. How important is that to you? Because we do have several Black women watching tonight.
How important is it to what now?
When you think about the courage, the tenacity of a Black woman compared to women of other races.
We are definitely the backbone of our culture. Um, Black women basically are the muse for just about everything that we use on a daily basis. If we didn't invent it, I'm sure that we gave some inspiration to a Black man to make it. So it's a true statement that, beside every good man is a good woman. Because that stability is needed there. It's something that the Black woman gives um, to the atmosphere, the element, to wherever they are, that everyone can feel that, and we inspire to do greater things if we're not doing them already ourselves.
Absolutely.
If I may, I just a couple of days ago completed reading the book, The Help, and I had not seen the movie, and it was interesting to kind of kind of take in this perspective of women and how they interacted, but particularly how Black women did every single thing that was needed to keep the household going, whether it was to do things that were traditionally male role things or not. They did it all, and it was just amazing that they were able to do that, and are still doing it today.
Awesome, awesome. And we definitely celebrate women of our African American race. And Lillian, as you said, and as you, Xavier, also pointed out, um, women have done a lot to contribute to the culture and are still doing a lot to contribute to the culture. And we'll kind of talk about some of those things before the show ends tonight. So, getting in our topic, the struggle of being Black. When we think about struggles, I want to start from personal experience. Lillian, if you would, kind of talk about some of the personal struggles that you found that you as a Black woman that you face on a day-to-day basis.
Well, honestly, I am blessed to live in a Black community, work at a Black business. I was schooled in the Birmingham City school system. I went to a HBCU. So unfortunately, I didn't have as much interaction with many other cultures.
Okay.
But I would say the struggle for me on a daily basis when people don't know who I am, not to say that I walk around wanting you to say, who I am,
Right.
but some people will just look at your skin color or look at that you're a woman and I guess doubt your abilities or, for a lack of better words, play you to the left. So unfortunately, Black women have to exhibit more strength and a little bit more we have to kind of push ourselves a little bit more in society, because people, I guess, think we're going to be mice or meek or sit back and not really correct them when we're disrespected. And that's what I've run into. Like if I'm in lines for different things that I need, I've had different women of other cultures say things that they shouldn't have said. And unfortunately, I had to say some things I shouldn't have said. But I think that once we step out of our comfort zone and mix with the world, sometimes, especially the Black woman, we have to assert ourselves a little bit more to be seen, to be respected, and to know that, we're here to play with the baddest people around. We don't need to sit back and be meek about anything.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, Xavier, that same question.
Well, listen, what I don't want to do is intellectualize the whole issue of being black, because sometimes I think we forget that we're really talking about human beings. We're talking about real people here, who are hurting, who are scared, who are, courageous,
Right.
who are kind, sometimes violent. It's just, we're talking about a real human being who has endured for centuries, up until now, segregation, discrimination, and the like, in so many different ways. But for myself, I work in the Vestavia Hills City school system, and I worked in the Mountain Brook school system prior to that. And what I recognized was that what I missed were was just exposure, to through that informal classroom that's just happening every day at home, when people are just talking about stocks and bonds and trading securities, and at 11 and 9 and 10 years old, and at 50, I'm being educated by these young men and young ladies, because this is just the norm for them. And so I recognize that I haven't really lacked anything. I just wasn't exposed to some of the things that at a very early age some of our white counterparts are being exposed to. And so now, that to me, that just means that the torch has been passed, because my awareness is heightened. And so now I got to care enough to learn a little bit, so that I can share a little bit and maybe kind of start this thing rolling, so that not to try to be like anybody else, but to just expose ourselves to some things that give us a better opportunity on this playing field.
Absolutely, absolutely. And at this time, our last guest is on, Mr. Eric Hall. Eric is another one who's no stranger to Birmingham. He is the co-founder of the Birmingham chapter of Black Lives Matter, and he is also running for Birmingham City Council District 9, for that seat. Welcome to you, Eric, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're
And
welcome.
hello to the guests that's been invited. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So again, the order for tonight, we'll start with Arlillian, then we'll go to Xavier, and Eric will end with you. So now that Eric has joined, got a lot of text messages about this, and I kind of wanted to go ahead and start here first, because this could take up a lot of our time, and we're just gonna go wherever, we're just gonna delve into it. So when we talk about the struggle of being black, I know for some of you, you can look at that and say, well, yeah, I can relate to that, because there are some things that whites, Asians, Hispanics, they can't relate to things that we go through. But I want to hit it first from this angle. We don't often talk about how we are racist against our own people. And I know a lot of you in the comments are going to be like, wow, I can't believe he just went there, but it's the truth. And so to begin this conversation, I want to talk about how skin types, skin tones, it's no secret. If you are black and you are the lighter skin tone, you're classified as high yellow. Sometimes you're called white, which from another black person, which is racist. And then if you are darker, you're called black as tar, which is still racist because it comes from another black person. So what I want to do is have a conversation just for a few moments about how relating to these things, how words can hurt. And I don't even think we realize that, because I think what a lot of times what happens is we as adults, we've said these things playfully joking to one another over the years. And then when our child is sent home from school from doing it, then it's a problem. Then no, it's been a problem, but the problem could have been handled before it escalated. So Lillian, I want to start with you on this conversation, and then we'll just kind of go around. You can share a personal experience if you've ever experienced something like this, or just in your own way in this conversation.
I do think that sometimes our culture can be a little, I wouldn't say racist, but we can really put each other down just because of our differences, which actually make us beautiful. I know sometimes people refer back to the paper bag test for if you were trying to be in a sorority, or even if you were a man bringing a woman home. If she didn't pass the paper bag test, then she may not be acceptable to your family. I think that we've come a long way from that. But at the same time, like you said, the small jabs, even on social media, they'll say it's light skin season or dark skin season. There are different ways that for a lot of people it's jokes, but for a lot of other people ingrained in them when they were younger, they heard these things and it really hurt them. Especially like when I was younger, if you were a darker skin, you were always called like, African booty scratcher or something, of African nature, because we didn't really embrace that culture like we do now. But now I don't think they really call anybody that. But I mean, we've come to a stage now where we bully. Bullying is done online, bullying is done in person. And I think why the light is being shed on it so much that some people are actually committing suicide. And so we have to really be cognizant and understand that we can't, throw little jokes like that, because some people take those things very personally.
Absolutely.
But I think that we've come a long way with accepting our skin color. We have so much representation in the media, in movies and TV, that you have Idris Elba, who is dark skinned, and back in the day that wasn't desirable, but he was voted sexiest man alive. So with our representation in media, it actually helps us as a community to appreciate each different skin color.
Absolutely.
Frederick Douglass said that if there is no struggle, there is no progress. And so we really have to examine then what it means to struggle. And so while we find ourselves in a struggle, that is probably just the necessary ground for growth. King said that there's a natural degree of conflict that must take place in order for growth to take place, right? And so we have to look at this thing, and say, hey, man, is this an opportunity or is it an obstacle? These sound cliche-ish terms and like things that we've all heard before, but if we take them seriously, we can really affect our experience and not just allow ourselves to be being affected, right? So, the struggle, I think, for myself and for so many of us that are Black, or who identify as Black, is, what does that really mean for you? It's really difficult because, sometimes we can get caught up in the chains of conformity, right? And we're losing our individuality. We're losing what really makes us creative, and we're just going along to get along. And now we don't even really know what it really means to be Black, right? We've been fed the stereotype, and now we're perpetuating the stereotype, and we've stopped growing. We've stopped branching out and being who we are. Men have stopped become nurturing, stopped being vulnerable and affectionate. These type of things. We're fighting against it now. There's a change that's taking place. My father and the gentleman from his stage, his era, and before that, they definitely were not trying to be too affectionate. Not to boys if they were affectionate. And so now we got to figure out, what does that mean to be Black and to be affectionate to your son? To kiss on him, to love on him, to hold hands with him when he's little, and to change his diapers and take on the roles that were traditionally women roles. And is that how we change? Is that how we affect the community better? Or do we leave that and just go out here and try to be just like our white counterparts who are heading their households and work 100 hours a week and bring home 7 figures and never know your children, never know your wife, but you still got all these things that say that you're doing okay, that say that we're healthy, but as soon as the doors close and we got to live, and now we got people see who you really are. I think that's where we got to really start making change and wondering how healthy we are before we start going out here into the corporate America and trying to satisfy the world.
Absolutely.
So I just would add to what both have already said. This whole notion of anti-blackness and colorism stems from a root of oppression, and it stems from places of power. For a long time, what we have as Black people have we looked at our white counterparts as being successful. And so this whole colorism notion is that, if I play the part, I might have a darker skin hue, but I can be more accepted. That way, that's the whole thing, regarding lighter skin is more accepted than more darker skins, because unfortunate reality that we have in this country today, and it's just been since the beginning of time, Black people, other races have a negative stereotype of Black people. And it's also unfortunate that, we ourselves have embraced some of those same feelings, you know. Um, I don't think it's as bad today as it was in the past, but we still have a long way to go. We have to begin to embrace and deal with our own individual issues, and understand that Black is beautiful. Black is powerful. And until we embrace that, we shouldn't necessarily look at other ethnicities as it relates to use them as a measuring stick for success. But we should be able to understand and find beauty in our own selves, in our own skin hue, in our own color.
Absolutely. And so the next sector I like to go to, and for everyone who did comment to the question that was posed, hold tight. We are going to get to those questions because our panel, they're actually going to answer your questions live tonight. So we are going to get to all those questions. But another inbox that I received leading up to the show, we want to talk about how the importance of Blacks sticking together. Everyone on the panel, and I know, it is hard for Blacks to come together. And what's so amazing about it is Arlillian can be doing her thing over here, and instead of Rebecca, I don't know why I said Rebecca. Let me say Quisha. Yeah, since we unapologetically Black. So if Quisha over here, she's doing the same thing, and how wonderful it would be if she and Arlillian could come together. Quisha's over here bucking against Arlillian, and then you have Larry over here. Larry has been in the same field that they've been in for 15, 20 years. Larry knows of them very well, but Larry says, well, hey, I can outdo them. Instead of all three of them coming together, just imagine the force and the greatness and the power that can come from the togetherness. Now, here's something about whites and other races. It's no secret. They may hate each other's guts, but majority of them, they will come together. And it's no Japal is just saying that's true. You can look at it with what we've seen in politics. You can look at it in local government, state government on a national level. It is the truth. And so my question to each of you, and again, we're keeping the same order, when it comes to coming together, how important is it that we, as Blacks, embrace the power of unity?
I think Big Mama on Soul Food said it best. You got these single fingers, they're not gonna do too much by themselves, but when you put them together, they strike a mighty blow. So if we as a community, as a culture, just realize that we all are individuals, we have our own strengths and whatnot that we can bring to the table, and all of us are equally important. The leader is just as important as your janitor because everybody has a single role that contributes to the whole. So we all just work together, contribute whatever we can to whatever we're trying to work towards, then we work to a goal and it won't be as hard. I think sometimes in our culture, we get the crab in the barrel syndrome sometimes, the crabs in the barrel syndrome, where we always pulling each other down instead of helping each other up out of whatever situation we're in. So if we just learn to think of collectively, to think of the village, to think of, your oldest person having wisdom. They may not be able to lift anything, but they can provide the wisdom. And your younger people can do the actual boots on the ground work. Um, if we just learn that, working together in unity, it definitely will make a difference in a lot of the things that we do in our communities.
Great. And guess I did mute you. So if each of you would mute yourselves again once you're done speaking, that way that'll prevent any feedback noises or anything.
Okay. The same man that's hungry is a different man when he's well fed. A man who is has a house to go home to is different from a man who's living on the street. And so when we look at groups, when we look at our community as a group, and if we're going to compare it to our white counterparts, that hey man, we're not really comparing in a lot of ways apples to apples, right? When if I can wake up every morning and all of my basic needs are met, I got a different approach to the world, right? And there were blacks over the years who have had those luxuries, very small in nature at times, but there were a few who had them. They lived on Martha's Vineyard and they were very successful, but there were limitations to it, right? And so even then, there were certain barriers to freedom, if you will. But I mean, I think we've struggled just for the basic necessities at times. And that's a very, very, I think it really takes a shift in your brain to sit in that, because emotionally we can do that and get angry and get upset and say, yeah, they should have revolted and whatever. But the reality is that when it was a day-to-day life, when this is what it was, when I was reading that book, The Help, and this is what the reality was. These ladies, they had to accept whatever these ladies told them to do, whatever mistreatment, maltreatment they offered these black maids, these ladies just had to endure. And there was nothing in their minds that was ever going to change, right? And so this is a different person than a person who doesn't have to face that every single day, right? Those are two different people. So I think for us, however we've struggled, and I know that we want to make it simple. We want to say if we had just done this thing, everything would have been different, or this is the reason right here, and that's it, and everybody understands. Oh, we have this aha moment, but the reality is that this thing is complex. It is very, very, very complex. But on a bigger scale, on a large scale, I would say this, that I don't know that we are as different as any other race, because we are human at the end of the day.
I think, well, I know, I'm not going to say I think, there's definitely more, we can do more together than we can do by ourselves, right? And I always, oftentimes, whenever I'm speaking to the political or whenever I'm saying anything, we're stronger together. That's what I go by. We're always stronger together, and that's been proven since the beginning. Even if you go back to days of slavery, our people, we were able to survive through that process. It was a hard process um, for my ancestors to have to endure, but they were stronger together, and collectively together they made it through. And that's the kind of power we have when we unite and we would come together. Even if you fast forward to the civil rights movement and to the Black Panthers movement, we were stronger together. And even right now in this modern day movement, when we talk about Black Lives Matter movement and what it stands for, collectively we're stronger together. And when we unite together and we stand together and we fight together, and it's obvious that we win together. And so, yeah, we just stronger together. Our ancestors dreamed, and I oftentimes tell people now, you know, Martin had a dream, and what I'm doing today, or what we're doing today, in this modern day movement, is we're just carriers of the dream. We're trying to make the dream a reality. And so, for some of us, we may, it's a constant struggle. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing that's gonna happen overnight, but I do believe that change is gonna come, and that change is gonna come only when we unite together as a people and as a race.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what I want to do at this moment, like I said, we did have several people to um answer our discussion questions, and I want to thank all of you for answering these questions. We are going to do our best to get to the questions. Um, but however, if we don't answer your question on the show, I will make sure that I do get responses from my guests, so we can get those responses posted. So my first question, Arlillian, this is actually for you. This is actually from a female, and her comment rather, my biggest struggle is with other black women, with other black people. I've had the rough time with us on the job, always thinking that I'm going to give you the hookup or you get a free pass, or that I should dummy down to be accepted. How would you respond to this female?
I would agree with her. I mean, we're always looking for the hookup. Especially if we know somebody who works wherever we're going, we definitely want a discount. And sometimes that discount can be given to you as a courtesy, but sometimes we have to understand that this is how people live.
Mhm.
And especially when you're dealing with black businesses, it's almost rude to ask for a discount. Um, just to be very frank with you, on a daily basis, before I can even give out the total, I'm asked for a discount for services, which, depending on the family and their, hardships or whatever, I'll be glad to, pass that along. But if they go to the cemeteries, they want their money all in full. They don't want to take any other, consideration. They just want their money and they're not going to give you a discount. So I feel like if you're going to honor their rules and to pay in full for their services, I think that we should give that same courtesy to our black businesses, because a lot of our black businesses are startups, are businesses that feed their families, per se, like mine. Almost my entire family works at the funeral home. So we're trying to just take care and feed and clothe and, provide a roof over all of our family's head. Um, Versus, you guys asking for discounts for every single thing that you go for. I don't think people really understand or value labor that people put in to their work. So, as a Black community, I think that we should adopt some type of respect for our Black businesses and not ask for a discount. If someone extends one to you, that's fine. But if you're asking them for a service, you don't want their service discounted per se. You don't want them to take away from what they do for their service. So don't try to take away from their coins that, are going to actually feed them. So I think that should be a good rule of thumb in the Black community, that, as Black leaders, as Black owners of businesses, of course, we would love to extend certain courtesies to our customers, but you got to allow us to make some money before we can do that. So I think that in our community. We just need to pay in full, not ask for discounts, and be respectful to people who are in business.
Absolutely. Then another question from a female. Then we do have some questions from the men. So those requests go to my males that are on the panel. Um, this next comment from a female, it says, I'm always put in a place where Black folks make you feel like we all need to be less than. If you do more than you're told to, you're trying to be white. Like it's not okay to have a positive standard. How would you respond to that?
I hate people saying the term is white, like you're acting white or you're doing something white. What does that exactly mean when, from our first question, the Black culture basically lends inspiration to everybody else's culture? So anything that we do or say, our movements are from us. So anything acting white or anything like that, I mean, um, I don't think that we should set the bar as good things or things that are more proper, are more white, or more of some other culture. We need to embrace that Black people can be articulate. We can outscore people on tests. We can become the vice president of the United States. You know, don't discount us and what we can do. So I think we really discount our own culture when we're basically saying that white ice is better. We need to definitely work on the respect level and to understand that the world imitates us. So it's everybody trying to be us, not the other way around.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we definitely have some more questions from females, and we will come back to you in a second.
Okay.
Okay. So now down to my males. My first comment from a male, he says, I'm always put in a, he says, one of the struggles of being a Black man is being acknowledged for the things you do as compared to your white counterpart. We often have to do more and are rewarded less.
Yeah.
So we'll start with you, Xavier.
I mean, those are he's speaking a reality that is, the experience of so many minorities, and how do we deal with that? I think first we have to be willing to look at the person in the mirror, because you can't control anybody but that person. Once we're able to deal with that person and deal with that 9-year-old little boy in there that's mad and want to throw a tantrum and act out because he can't get his way. Once we can control that young man, that little boy, and let the adult male analyze this thing and say, okay, it is what it is. Okay, now so how am I going to proceed now? The best thing I can do, well, the number one thing I have to do if I want change, is I got to maintain my high standard, the standard that I have for myself. It can't come from an external inspiration. Really, I got to be able to have something inside of me that says that this is how I'm gonna perform, just for me. Now, listen, being Black in this country meant that all of us who have become, if you will, formally educated, we carrying the whole culture on our shoulders. When we went up in that classroom and we got a degree, we walked across that stage, that meant that now we were an educated Black person, right? That mean that there was an expectation placed on us that was somehow more than it is on people that were uneducated. And it's crazy how even in our own little community, we got our own little racism, we got our own little discrimination and our own little segregation based on other things right in there. And it's just because we're human. But to say that we don't work together is really, I think, naive. When we look at what all the things that we're talking about tonight, when we roll the tape back and we look at just how far we've come, and with the organization and the zeal and it to do bigger and better things, I think that can't be the criticism. whether or not we're coming together. I think what we got to see is how are we going to maintain the magnitude of this thing, because it's one thing to handle a $50,000 a year a business. It's a whole different thing to handle $1,050,000 a year business. It take a different way to manage that thing, and so it's different kind of stressors that happen. So you got to have different expertise to deal with those things. And so, I think we're doing really well. I think we fire for real, to be honest. If I want to just get ugly with it, and we're going to continue to do better and bigger and better things, because we have people like the panelists on here now, and because of people like you. And I'm gonna just sit there, and when people get mentally messed up, they could just come see me in my office.
There you go.
This whole I'm thinking about the black and other, right? And when I say the black and other, I'm saying like, okay, we identify one struggle as being black, but then there's a whole nother struggle with the other part. And so for black women, it's something else. Black women have been painted as angry. They have been painted as so many different things. Black men have been painted as thugs. When we talk about the whole stereotypes, and so the other piece is some serious, because not only do you deal with the struggles of being black, but there's also struggles that come along with the other. And from just seeing everything, and just being dealing with the struggle and living in the struggle, and even with my experiences in life, we black people have always had to overachieve. They always had to go over and beyond. And sometimes that could be an internal issue because they feel like they have to prove something to themselves. But sometimes it's also a real reality that, there are some major gaps in our systems. And so when you talk about like an education gap, when you talk about like the wealth gap, when you talk about all of these gaps that exist, what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to go over and beyond just to even, get to where we need to be, to even live, you know. And it's a very unfortunate reality. When you talk about like the wage, let's just say for the wage gap, in general, what blacks make in comparison to white counterparts. What I'm saying? When you talk about the education as relates to, if you talk about like what our schools are designed as and how our schools are designed, when you talk about the education curriculum from Birmingham City schools to other schools, and I'm saying Birmingham City because it's a predominantly black institution, but when you look at them compared to Hoover, they got all kind of languages that they teaching over in just Hoover High School. What I'm saying? And so we're not in a competitive market when you talk about like just the whole gap of things and how things are made up right now. And so it makes it hard. And so sometimes, for the regular average black brother, he got to go over and above. It's a very unfortunate reality. And that's something that we have to come together and fight against. We have to begin to demand more for ourselves, and we have to demand more of these institutions. Systemic racism is real. And the system is designed the way it's designed to work for who it's designed to work for and designed to who it's designed to work against. And so if we want the system to work for us, then we need to either get ourselves in places of power and make it work, or we need to talk about what dismantling these systems will look like and rebuilding all new systems to make them work for all people and not just one particular group or race.
Absolutely. And what I want to do for this next question, Eric, since you're already unmuted, we'll start with you. We'll go to Xavier and we'll end with Arlillian. This is our last question tonight. We'll do from those that were submitted before the show on the air, but like I said, we will get all of them answered. This is comment. It says, "I find it very difficult to inspire younger African Americans concerning education and personal development." How would you respond to that?
First off, I would say that we sometimes there's a generational gap is real too, right? And so sometimes the best response a person can give is to listen. Sometimes you can't tell someone else. What I'm saying? As bad as I want my son to go to college, Um, I know that he have other things, and he feel like college is not necessarily a choice for him. I'm not going to discount his, him not going to college. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to help him to grow in ways that he want to grow. You know what I'm saying? And so whether he want to be, I'm gonna make sure that he have the tools that he needed, that he needs in order to be successful in life. And I'm gonna try to equip him as best I can. Um, but we just need to make sure that what we can do is listen. That's key. And offer advice. You know, as best we can't throw our belief systems on other people. And tell them listen and best support people in ways that it will help them to grow. Um, that would be that's what I say. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to change the person. Um, now, if it's some people do need to be redirected. I'm gonna be honest about that. Some people need to be redirected, but for the most part, if it's something like education or work or listen to them. You know what I'm saying? And then that way you might understand where they're coming from, and then there might be another approach that you can take.
Absolutely. All right, Xavier.
I think there's a difference between being educated and being intelligent. And I think most of us we understand this argument. We understand the correlation, the connection, the difference. We understand the similarity in them. But many of our young people feel like if they're not educated, that they're not intelligent. And we've got to, as parents, we've got to also make sure that, and as adults, we've got to make sure that we're not perpetuating and sending that message that the only way that you're intelligent is if you're educated, if you will. And I put educated in quotations because I'm talking about formal education, because in reality, the educational process is ongoing. We're learning so much all the time. Is this informal classroom that's going on all the time? Then you have your formal classroom where it's condensed and it's specific. But I think if we can encourage young folks to understand that we see them as intelligent people, as intelligent beings, that you really are intelligent. What I need to help you do is to learn how to refine that intelligence. I got to help you understand how to use that intelligence and not hide that intelligence. Because in our community, sometimes, especially for Black males, it ain't cool to be smart. I think I feel like I make going to school cool. I'm talking about me personally, because I did well in school. I liked school, but I was as wild as any other young men and that were at that time. I was doing the same stuff, but I believed in going to school, and what it did was help me gain perspective and balance. And so, and I think for me, being educated helped me to realize that I didn't know anything. It helped me to stay humble because I was aware of really how much I didn't know, of how much there was out there to know. And so now if we can just help young folks understand that what you have right now is good stuff. Let's see what it is, because you may not be showing everybody else. You may be showing everybody some stuff that you don't want to show them. Right. So let's show them that you are intelligent, and as adults, let's help them understand that education isn't, or formalized traditional education isn't the only way.
Okay, my advice, when trying to deal with the younger generation and trying to instill knowledge or advice for them, honestly, they're gonna have to want it. You can talk to someone all day until you're black and blue, and it can go in one ear and come out the other. When someone actually is seeking advice from you, they're more open to what you have to say. They're more open to the ideas and the concepts and actually putting those things into play into whatever they want to do. Just to remind everybody, when we were that young, we thought we knew everything as well. So it's always good to start off with knowing that, of course, they know everything already. Guide them in whatever way they're asking you, and always be that village for them when they need you. Because what we said we were going to do at 18, we might not necessarily be doing now. We learned a lot of things. We have evolved. We're greater individuals. So just to let the youth know that it's okay to have your opinion. It's okay to go in your own journey because the road less traveled might be the best one. But it's always good to have that village behind you to support you and give you advice into whatever way you want to go. I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. Clark Atlanta University's slogan is I'll find a way to make one. So if people just adopt that mindset, and then always embrace your village whenever you may need them, then I think that the generation coming up will do fine. Just they just have to be willing to accept the advice that you're giving them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for this next question, Lillian, we'll start with you and we'll go back around. So as we are nearing the end of the show, um, two final questions that I have. I want to talk about this really isn't a question. I want to talk about the importance of mentoring and steering this generation because as I said last week, we can't say anymore the next generation. They are the now generation because time waits for no one. And yesterday, I'm sure moms, dads, grandparents watching, you were calling your then babies kindergartners. Well, a lot of these babies, they will be graduating from high school in May or even graduated from college this year. So I want to talk about the importance of making sure that we steer the now generation, this generation, on the path to success, letting them know that, hey, anything you want is possible. You can be president of the United States. You can be governor of Alabama. You can be this and that. Let's talk about the importance of that because for so often we see on television how we're always talking about the wrong thing that our youth are doing, like, and I don't want to mispronounce her name, the young lady who did the poem at the inauguration, president's inauguration, and she also did it at the Super Bowl. We talked about it last week. Probably will be talking about it on a few shows to come. That is awesome, and that should show this generation that there's nothing that you can't do. So I want to talk about for a few moments the importance of stirring this generation and molding them and putting them on the path for continued success.
Um, it's extremely important. For one, it stops the pipeline of school to prison yard for a lot of children when they are mentored correctly. And just by, like you said, seeing a young lady at the Super
Is she muted?
that representation of seeing that, hey, that's somebody my age that is doing these outstanding things that I want to do. When you have that representation, it stops that schoolyard to prison yard mentality. We just have to, I think, as a culture, embrace the village again. Back in the day, even before we were coming up, to my understanding, in the neighborhood, if you got in trouble, your neighbor 3 doors down could whip you just as bad as your parents. I'm not saying that we beat everyone's children, but when you have a whole village that's looking out for not only their household, but looking out for the households around them, I think it makes a tremendous a difference. Maybe your parents are, salaried laborers, but a few doors down, it may be someone who's a doctor or who is a politician or someone who may inspire them to do something that they really want to do in the future. When we adopt that village mentality, then that child has access to all of these wonderful people within their community that can show them what they do. give them more light into what they do and give them encouragement and give them some type of goal to achieve. If you don't have any type of goals or seeing something that you really want, then you're easily dragged down into the street mentality or not wanting anything for yourself. But when you're mentored and given the ability to see further than you ever thought you could, it makes a difference not only for that single child, but the entire village, because that child may grow up to be your doctor. That child may grow up to be a teacher for your children. It makes a tremendous difference and it keeps on cycling. It's a cycle. So if we continue our village and we keep on developing greater and greater individuals as we go along, we can be a stronger culture altogether.
Absolutely.
Like we have to continue to build a village. Our children have really been beat up so bad. And it's really disheartening to see, from the media to by politicians, by their very own school system. Um, our kids have literally been beat on, and so we as a community have to come together and start to affirm our young kids, our young people. We have to remind them every day and constantly that they're beautiful, that they're bright, that they can be anything that they want to be. But most importantly, we have to invest in our kids. And we can't necessarily become dependent upon the systems to invest in them. As a community, we have to begin to invest in them, and we have to invest in them early. And so that investment, it can be with money, but it can also be with time. But the most important thing that I see that a lot of our kids are wanting and needing and yearning for is consistency. You know what I'm saying? We have all these nonprofit programs. We have these people in the community, and they start, but they're not consistent. And so, what we need at this point, when we're talking about building the village, mentoring our kids, supporting our kids, and being their proper support system, all of that is we need to do all of that. But at the same time, we need to maintain a level of consistency so that our kids don't fall behind. And I agree with Monica Fletcher. We got to stop pretending. It's not gonna change overnight. You know what I'm saying? But over the course of time, we can make a difference. And so, in closing, I'm just gonna close out. A lot of times people refer to Black Lives Matter as um, a hate group, but that's not what we are. Black Lives Matter is two things. One is an organization, it's a national organization that's against systemic racism, particularly police violence. But two, it's an affirmation and it's an uplifting point to remind people that Black Lives Matter. And so I just want to close with that. You know, that's who we are and that's what we're about. Black lives are beautiful. Black lives have struggled. Black lives have always been resilient. Black lives have we've overcome obstacles, and we're going to continue to overcome them. And we're stronger together than we are apart. Ain't that right, Miss Bushline?
And Lily, go ahead and unmute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's right. You're right, Eric.
And for the last question, and then I'll give you an opportunity to tell people how they can find out more information about you. For the last question, how important is it that we focus on the um, success of African Americans rather than our struggles? Because it is so easy to talk about the struggles, the things we lack that whites have. And I'm sure because February, um, especially, I'm sure everybody's been on Facebook. Somebody somewhere has been posting an achievement that an African American person has achieved. Y'all, we got it going on, and I don't think we really praise our culture and we praise our ancestors enough for the things that they've accomplished. We talked about how music has been on the forefront of the African American race last week. When we talk about films, civil rights activists, so many other things, politicians, we have it going on. So, how important is it that we focus on our achievements, our successes, rather than our struggles?
It's extremely important because media is going to emphasize our negative. So I think as a community, we need to, as they say, count your blessings, name them one by one, We need to name one by one every single thing that we can be proud of with our community. Like I said, every time you turn on, I mean, you look on social media, you turn on the news, you're going to see negative things about our community because that happens. That's human. It's going to happen in all different types of communities. But when you highlight all the amazing things, all the amazing people that share the same melanin that everyone else, within our community shares, it gives inspiration to children, even adults. Adults can be just as inspired as a child. You're only as old as you think and you imagine. So if we could just work on, you know, as a community, just getting together, praising one another, praising our achievements so that we can show children that this is the positive reinforcement behind doing good for your community. Everybody loves positive reinforcement. Everybody likes a piece of candy, money, some type of reward. So if we could just call out these different names, Kamala Harris, going even back to Sojourner Truth, letting people know their history, letting them know what the struggles were to get there, but this is the positive thing that they have achieved. So if we start to just count those things, we'll be able to magnify how we as a society feel about ourselves because we're magnificent people. And if we don't continue highlighting what we've achieved, no one else will. They'll just, highlight the negatives.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the whole thing I say, we gotta grow. We grow through our struggles, and we can always talk about what the struggle is like. But hopefully, we learn from our struggles, right? And we got to continue to uplift each other. I celebrate everybody from whatever. There's nothing is small if you graduate in college to whatever you doing in life. I even celebrate the young dude who I know in my neighborhood who literally struggled, grew up in DHR system, really didn't have a family support, had a child, but was able to kind of he went from standing in an abandoned house to getting a 1 bedroom apartment, to from working, hustling in the streets to getting a job making $10 an hour, and that's a major accomplishment, man. And so, we have to begin to celebrate everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody is worthy to be affirmed. Everybody is worthy to be uplifted. Nobody should be looked down upon, regardless of whatever background, whatever issue they may have been dealing with. If there's something that's there to be celebrated, celebrate our brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? You never know you know, what that might do to them. You know what I'm saying? Just a simple, just me telling this young brother, like, dude, I'm really proud of you. You know what I'm saying? You really stepped up 100 just to be there for your child. That meant a lot to him. You know what I'm saying? He told me how he was literally on the verge of suicide because, nobody was there for him and he just wanted to be recognized. And so sometimes we have to, hug our brothers and hug our sisters and uplift them and be there for them. That's what building the village is about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank each of you for being a guest on tonight, and we do apologize. Xavier was having technical issues. We do thank him as well for being a guest. And as I say to all of my guests, you all are now part of the Perspective family, and we do look to have each of you on for future shows. So quickly before we end, tell people a little bit about you and where they can find out more information about you.
I thought you was gonna go. I got one more question. I was gonna say, you just like the old Baptist preacher. I got last question. But no, seriously, people can connect with me via social media on Facebook. It's all of my usernames is my name, Eric Hall. So if you want to connect with me, I encourage you to follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, and LinkedIn, and all those social media sites. If you stay in District 9, I would like to talk with you, speak with you. I do want to know what your issues are, what keeps you up at night. There are some things that we need to change. There's some drastic changes that need to be made. I am running to be a voice, and to represent you, in making those changes. But again, as we said in this conversation, the Black struggle has been real, but we're stronger together than we are apart. And so I invite you all, if you stay in District 9, if you don't stay in District 9, because as a counselor, we still are extensions of your district. And so council don't just vote necessarily on their particular districts, but they vote to grow the city of Birmingham. Um, Collectively, I think we can all do that together. We're stronger together than we are apart. Thank you so much, brother, for the invitation. Thank you so much, Ms. Bushelon. It's been awesome just to be in your presence. I've heard some wonderful things about you,
Awesome.
and continue to, be the great person that you are. Continue to do what you do. Hopefully, in the near future, I would like to partner with you, um, and so that we can do something for the village, for the kids. Um, Especially, we know what's going on in our community, and so as a co-founder of Black Lives Matter, and in any capacity, whatever we can do to bring an issue or bring awareness around youth violence, youth crime, we want our youth to live at the end of the day, you know. Um, so we definitely have to do something to make sure the village is taken care of. So I will be reaching out to both of you to make some so we can make something happen. All right.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Well, for those I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Arlillian Kate Bushelon. I'm the manager at Bushelon Funeral Home that was started in 1975 by my father, Aubrey Bushelon. So I'm carrying the torch for him. I'm a big daddy's girl. He passed away in 2013. We actually just passed the anniversary of his death on February 3rd. He's been gone for 8 years, but we pray that we're still making him proud. With Bushelon Funeral Home, we not only take care of the bereaved community, but we've also moved into getting back to just being a pillar of strength for the community in whole. And by doing that on Thursdays, we have West End Food Truck Park, which is actually where we have about 5 to 8 different food trucks from the city come out. They're all amazing. They're all crowd pleasers. Sometimes we don't do it only because of inclement weather, which we think we're going to have this Thursday. But when the weather is great, I tell you, come out, get you something to eat. I have been extending and will extend to both of you all if you all have organizations that would like to come out to the food truck park. We'll be doing voter registration. I know, Eric, you said something about combating violence. If we can get together and do something for the community as they come out on Thursdays, that would be awesome. I'm always looking for some way to be of service. I truly believe that my life is to be of service. So, in any capacity, I'm willing to serve. That's just me. I truly believe that when you do service on earth, it's the rent you pay for your borrowed time here. So anything that I can do, just let me know. And I'm here where you can find me, Facebook. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not that technologically savvy as I thought I was. So I don't have any other social media platforms except for Facebook. You can find me at Arlillian Bushelon. Also go like Bushelon Funeral Home as well as West End Food Truck Park so you can keep up with what food truck we're going to bring next to the community.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And again, thanks to both of you for being guests tonight. And one thing, and let me say this before I end, I love it when all of us are in the same age bracket. And when we talk about the things that we are doing in our prospective community, that shows you, as we talked about Dr. King's dream earlier, his dream is living on in so many different ways. So it's just kudos to each of you. And as you said, Eric, together we could do more. So I definitely look forward to the opportunities to working with both of you on things we could do to make just not our city, but our county and our state a better place for all. And I want to thank you, our viewing audience, for watching tonight's show. This has been episode 25, The Struggle of Being Black. As always, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Divine Vision Entertainment LLC. You can also visit our website at divinevisionent.com. Next Monday, we conclude this dynamic series with the determination of being Black. And please get ready for that. We have some awesome guests lined up as well. So for everyone who watched the show last week, I know you're saying, okay, what kind of entertainment do we have tonight? Unfortunately, y'all, we were unable to schedule anything, but I still wanted to give you all something. So I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest backstage for this. And so as we know, this is Black History Month. And there was no way that we could close out the month without speaking of the iconic Cicely Tyson. So to end the show tonight, we're gonna showcase one of my favorite scenes from one of the many movies that she's done. And so Miss Tyson will give us the last word tonight by way of acting. So hope you enjoy. So as always, I love each of you. Keep the faith, stay safe, stay weather aware, and together we can do more. Love you all. See you next week. Miss Tyson, take it away.
Trying to be something I'm not? Trying to be proud of my African heritage? If that's being something I'm not, then fine. I'd rather be dead than be like you. Stuck-up nigger who's ashamed of being black.
My grandmother was a full-blooded Iroquois. My grandfather was a black from a long line of journeymen who lived in Connecticut since the establishment of the colonies. My father was a Bajan who came to this country a cabin boy in a merchant marina.
I know all of that, Mama.
Then know this. I am alive because of the blood of a people who never scraped or begged or apologized for what they were. They asked only one thing of this world: to be allowed to be. And I learned through the blood of this people that black isn't beautiful. It isn't ugly. It isn't kinky hair. It isn't straight hair. Black is just black. It broke my heart when you changed your name. I gave you my grandmother's name, a woman who bore 9 children and educated them all. Who held off 6 white men with a shotgun when they tried to drag one of her sons off to jail for not knowing his place. And you had to reach into an African dictionary to find a name that would make you proud. When I brought my babies home from the hospital, I swore to whatever gods would listen that I would use everything I had or could get so that my children would be prepared to meet this world on its own terms, so that no one could make them ashamed of what they were or how they looked, whatever they were, however they looked. And Melanie, that's not white.